My family made matching t-shirts for all the cousins. My 7-year-old's t-shirt said, "The mistake." My father chuckled. "Better she hears it now." Nobody objected. I didn't shout. I did this. The next day, their lives started to unravel. We went on a family holiday to the beach. And I didn't know it then, but it was going to change everything. It was one of those big trips my parents loved to brag about. The whole clan came along. My sister Bianca with her kids, Max and Phoebe, my brother Josh, a few cousins, and me with my daughter Iris. The resort was the kind of place that looked good in pictures. Palm trees, pools, sand everywhere you didn't want it. The kids shrieked and splashed while the adults clinked glasses under umbrellas, pretending we were one big happy family. Iris had been buzzing for weeks. She's 7, and she doesn't always find it easy to keep up with her cousins. But this time she was glowing. She wanted to run with them, laugh with them, belong with them. For her, this trip was everything. And then Bianca stood up with her surprise. She dragged a beach tote over and pulled out a neat stack of white t-shirts. "Okay, cousins," she called, grinning like she'd just revealed a game show prize. "We made special shirts for everyone." The kids cheered. Iris's eyes widened. Matching shirts. A photo together? This was it. Proof she was one of them. Bianca handed them out one by one. Max tore his open first. "The snack monster!" he shouted, cookie crumbs still stuck to his chin. Everyone laughed. Phoebe held hers up. "The explorer!" she squealed, already darting toward the dunes. Another cousin unwrapped the fish and dove back into the pool, splashing the deck. The adults chuckled, nodding along, clapping at each reveal. Lighthearted, silly, harmless. And then it was Iris's turn. She peeled off the plastic carefully, like it was treasure. She pulled the shirt out, white and clean. Before she could even read it, Max snorted and blurted, "Look! The mistake!" Phoebe cackled, doubling over. A few cousins joined in, their laughter sharp and bright against the sound of waves. Iris stared at the letters, bold and black across the fabric. She held it up with trembling hands, her face collapsing as the words sank in. Silence spread, and then my father chuckled. "Better she hears it now." Nobody objected. Not Bianca, still smirking. Not my mother, who sipped her drink like she hadn't heard. Not Josh, eyes down on his phone. Not one of them. Iris hugged the shirt against her chest as if she could smother it, but her cheeks burned red. The sparkle she'd carried all week drained out of her. She looked at me, eyes wide, and I knew. This moment would brand her if I let it. I wanted to tear that shirt in half. I wanted to shove it back into Bianca's smug hands and watch her choke on it. But all I heard in my head was one bitter line. Apparently cruelty came free with the cocktails. Iris's lip quivered. A sound rose in her throat, but she swallowed it down. She didn't even have words for the hurt. That was my breaking point. I stood. My chair screeched against the tiles, loud enough to snap heads around. I reached for Iris's hand, small, shaking, but mine to protect. "We're leaving," I said. My voice was steady, sharp as glass. Gasps rippled across the pool deck. Someone muttered, "Overreacting." Bianca rolled her eyes like I'd ruined her fun. My mother's face pinched in disapproval. I didn't care. We walked out. Past the pool, past the umbrellas, past every single pair of eyes that had chosen silence over decency. Iris's shirt dangled from her fist, the word burning like a scar across the cotton. Outside the gates, the air felt different, cooler, sharper. I knelt down, brushing the damp strands of hair from her face. Her cheeks were wet. She looked like she hadn't even realized she was crying. I pulled her close. My voice was calm, even, but inside I was fire. In this moment I had made a decision that would change everything. The next day, their lives would start to unravel. People think the explosion is the big moment, the shirt, the insult, the laughter. But that was only the spark. The truth? The dynamite had been stacked for years. I was the middle child. That's all you need to know. Bianca, my older sister, was the golden one. She was the hope, the investment, the pride of the family. Josh, my younger brother, was the baby. He was allowed to stumble, fail, crash, and still be full of potential. And me? I was the useful one, the invisible glue. You could lean on me, but you'd never brag about me. The house was the first sign of how that role would follow me into adulthood. When Bianca's beauty business, the one my parents had bankrolled like it was Apple stock, crashed into bankruptcy, their credit went with it. They had a deposit saved for a new house, but no bank would touch them. Josh was still in school, so they came to me. I was working in accounting, steady paycheck, clean credit. "It's just a formality," they said. "We'll pay. We just need your name on the paperwork." I signed. Of course I did. On paper, it was mine. In reality, it was theirs. At the time, I wasn't living there. I had my own little rental, my own life. And for a while, it didn't matter. Then Iris was born. That was the earthquake. The pregnancy was unexpected. The father disappeared before I'd even wrapped my head around it. And Iris came weeks too soon, a tiny bird of a baby in a nest of wires. The NICU is a place you don't forget. The beeping, the plastic walls of the incubator, the sterile air. I sat there night after night, staring at her chest rising and falling, terrified it would stop. Doctors gave me statistics, probabilities, numbers I couldn't bear to hear. There were nights I thought I'd lose her. Nights I cried into my hands in the hallway, praying to anything that would listen. Then came the miracle. Slowly, she fought her way out. She opened her eyes. She gripped my finger with a hand so small it barely wrapped around my nail. She learned to breathe. When she finally came home, she carried one scar, a minor hearing loss, a small aid tucked behind her ear. Otherwise, she was whole. But here's the part that gnawed at my parents. The bills. Insurance didn't cover everything. I drained my savings. I took out a loan. Every cent I had went into keeping my daughter alive. And that meant I wasn't funneling cash into their emergencies anymore. They noticed. And they remembered. Even years later, they'd bring it up. "All your money went there," my mother would say, like saving Iris had been a foolish expense. And then, for a moment, they fooled me. When Iris was released, fragile and small, they seemed supportive. My mother cooked. My father drove me to appointments. Bianca dropped off hand-me-downs. For a few days, I thought maybe this was family. Maybe, after all the years I'd carried them, they were finally carrying me. So I moved into the house. I thought it was safety. I thought it was help. It was neither, because soon the old habits returned. Just a little for groceries. Split the utilities, it's only fair. Cover the repairs. You know how expensive boilers are. By the time Iris was walking, I was paying rent. By the time she started school, I was paying more to live in my parents' house than I ever had for my own place. And the better I did at work, the higher the number climbed. Every promotion, every new client, it came with another contribution. Outside the house, they told a different story. "We let Sarah and the baby stay with us," they'd say, smiling like saints. "We're supporting them." Supporting us. Sure. Let's call it that. Meanwhile, Iris was growing up. She was bright, funny, curious, but the dynamic I'd known all my life started creeping over her. Bianca's kids were geniuses for remembering to flush. Iris? She had to climb mountains to get half the recognition. It was in the little things, the way she was excluded from games, the way her hearing aid became a joke, the way silence filled the room when she looked for approval. I saw it. The old role being handed down, the scapegoat script sliding onto my daughter's shoulders. 7 years like that. Me paying, her shrinking, our world rearranging itself around everyone else's comfort. Then came the holiday, the pool, the shirts, the mistake. That wasn't the explosion. That was the spark that reached the fuse. That was the moment something in me cracked. Not quietly this time, but loud enough that nothing would ever be the same again. The car ride home was silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the kind that buzzes in your ears like an alarm you can't switch off. Iris sat in the back, staring out the window, clutching that awful white shirt in her lap. I kept glancing at her in the mirror, hoping she'd cry, or shout, or say anything. She didn't. And somehow, that was worse. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally spoke. Just one line. "Mom, can we just stay in our room tonight?" Our room. My daughter was 7, and she already thought of that cramped corner of the house as a place to hide. I wanted to tell her the truth, that nothing about this house had ever really been ours. Not the deed, not the space, not even the air we breathed. But she didn't need that. Not tonight. So I nodded, kissed her forehead, and tucked her in. Then I went downstairs and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the bills, the receipts, the paper trail of a life I'd been paying for while they pretended they were supporting me. And that's when it hit me. I was done. Done with being the quiet one, the invisible one, the one they could bleed dry while telling the world I should be grateful. This was my house. My name on the deed. My proof in black and white, stacked high in that folder on the table. Tomorrow, I'd stop living like a guest in my own home. Tomorrow, they'd finally see who really held the keys. The next morning, I carried that folder into a lawyer's office. He flipped through page after page, his expression darkening. "This is a lot," he said finally. "Try surviving it," I told him. He looked up. "Whose name is on the deed?" "Mine." "Then it's your house," he said flatly. "You can evict them." It was that simple. Years of silence shattered in one conversation. That evening, the kitchen was set like a stage. My lawyer sat beside me. the eviction notice folded neatly in front of him. I kept my hands flat on the table, heart pounding so loud I thought it might shake the glasses in the cupboard. The front door opened. My parents stepped in, dragging their suitcases behind them, still smelling of sunscreen and sea air. My mother's voice was bright with fake cheer. "We're home!" she called out. Then she stopped, blinking at the sight of me and a stranger sitting at the kitchen table. "What's this?" she asked, frowning. The lawyer stood smoothly. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, my name is," he said, introducing himself as he slid the papers across the table. "You're being served." This is a 30-day eviction notice my parents didn't understand at first. They exchanged a quick glance. Confusion, not fear. My dad dropped the suitcases and frowned. "What's going on?" "You're back early," I said quietly. "Good." "What's this?" my mom asked, setting the bag on the counter. "Who's he?" The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, my name is Paul Henderson. I'm here on behalf of your daughter." Their faces stiffened. My dad's jaw tightened. My mom's hand hovered over the counter. "On behalf of our daughter?" she echoed, like she'd misheard him. Paul slid the papers across the table. "These are formal eviction notices. You have 30 days to vacate the premises." Silence. A long, heavy silence, like the room itself stopped breathing. Then my mom laughed. Actually laughed. A high, brittle sound. "This is ridiculous," she said. "What kind of joke is this?" "It's not a joke," Paul replied evenly. My dad took a step closer to the table, his eyes narrowing. "Eviction," he said. "We own this house." I stood. My knees felt like water, but my voice stayed steady. "No, it's in my name. It's always been in my name." Mom's laugh broke off. "That was a formality. A technicality. You know that. We asked you as a favor. This is our home. You asked me to put it in my name," I said, "because your credit was ruined after helping Bianca." I was 23. I didn't argue. But I've been paying for years. More than you ever did. Their confusion started to fracture. Mom's smile twitched, faltered. Dad's face went red. "You're not serious," he said. "You're not actually doing this." "I am." My mom's hand gripped the counter edge so hard her knuckles whitened. "We gave you everything," she hissed. "We took you back in when no one else would. We let you live here. You charged me rent," I cut in. "You took thousands every month. And when my daughter was fighting to survive in NICU, you told me she was draining me dry." That landed. My dad flinched. Mom's mouth opened, but no words came out. Paul pushed a second document forward. "These are the financial records your daughter provided." Payments. Transfers. Years of them. My dad snatched the papers up and rifled through them. The color in his face darkened. "You've been keeping records?" "Yes." My voice cracked on the word, but I didn't look away. "Every cent. And it adds up to more than the equity in this house. I'm not stealing anything from you. I paid for it." Mom's voice rose, shrill now. "You're our daughter!" "You think you can just throw us out like strangers?" "I didn't throw you out," I said quietly. "You did that yourselves." You just didn't notice the room went still. Their eyes finally showed it. Not confusion anymore, but disbelief. Then fury. In their minds, this wasn't me taking back what was mine. It was betrayal, treason, robbery. My dad slammed the papers onto the table. "You'll regret this. You'll crawl back. This is our house, Sarah." Ours, I met his glare. "Not anymore." Paul stood then, smoothing his tie. "You have 30 days, he said calmly. "We recommend you begin arrangements immediately." Mom's voice cracked on a whisper. "How could you do this to us?" I didn't answer, because if I did, I might start to cry. I just watched as they stood there, sunburned and stunned, still clutching their bags like they'd walked into the wrong house. The shouting came then. Rage, betrayal, curses flung like knives. But the fight was gone. The shock had hollowed them. They saw it now, as clearly as I did. They had 30 days, and for the first time in my life, it wouldn't be me packing the boxes. The house was too quiet after they were served. Not peaceful, not restful, just heavy. My parents moved around like shadows, every cupboard shut a little harder than necessary, every footstep deliberate, like they wanted me to hear the weight of their anger. They barely spoke to me directly, only muttered to each other in half-finished sentences. The silence didn't feel like surrender. It felt like plotting. And I was right. About a week later, they asked me to sit down in the living room. Just to talk. Bianca came too, like she'd been waiting for her cue. I had a gut feeling this wasn't really a conversation, more like a trap. But I didn't say that out loud. Not yet. I just sat down and waited. We sat facing each other, me on the edge of the couch, them lined up like a tribunal. My mother folded her arms, Bianca smirked like a cat who'd swallowed a canary, and my father leaned forward with that rehearsed look of disappointment that had been my lullaby growing up. My mom started it. "Sarah, you can't go through with this eviction. It's cruel. It's wrong. You'll regret it." I didn't answer. I just let them talk. My father picked it up. "If you insist on stealing from us, then we'll have no choice but to tell the truth about you." "Truth?" I raised an eyebrow. Dry humor. My armor. "That'll be new." Bianca leaned in. "We'll go to CPS." There it was. "We'll tell them how you drink," my mother added quickly. "We'll show them the videos." It took me a second to realize what she meant. The clip from a barbecue last summer. I'd had a single glass of wine while Iris played with her cousins. That was their evidence. "And we'll testify," Bianca said smoothly. 3 witnesses. Independent. We'll say you leave her alone, that she's neglected, that you scream at her, that she comes to school with bruises. Lies, I said flatly. "Testimony," my father corrected. His eyes were cold. "Do you really think they'll believe you over us?" 3 adults. Family. United. For a moment, the room tilted. The air felt thick, like I was breathing through cotton. I looked at their faces, my parents, my sister, and realized they weren't bluffing. They meant it. They would burn me to the ground if I didn't roll over. But I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just stood up. "We're done here." I walked out, took Iris by the hand, and left the house. We packed 2 bags and went to stay at a friend's place across town. For the first time in years, I didn't tell my parents where I was. The next morning, I walked into my lawyer's office. I set my phone on his desk and told him I'd hit record before that talk. I'd had a gut feeling they were going to try something, so I'd slipped it into my pocket and let it run. When the recording played, the room filled with their voices. "If you insist on stealing from us, we'll tell the truth about you. We'll go to CPS. We'll testify." 3 witnesses. Independent. When the recording ended, the silence in the office was different from the silence at home. This silence had weight. My lawyer leaned back slowly, his eyes sharper than I'd ever seen them. "This is extortion," he said. "And it's a crime." I nodded, but my throat was tight. Hearing it back made it even uglier. He tapped the phone. "This is admissible." One-party consent. It's enough to ruin them if they try anything. "Good," I said. My voice cracked, so I cleared it and tried again. "Good." He leaned forward. "Here's what we do. We serve them with this recording. We make it clear. If they try to file a report, we go to the police first. False reporting, blackmail, extortion. They'll be the ones in court, and if they go ahead anyway, then CPS investigates. And this recording will bury them. You'll walk out clean. They won't." For the first time in weeks, I almost laughed. Dry, bitter, but real. Finally, they'll tell the truth without meaning to. That evening, we went back to the house. Not with Iris. She stayed safe with my friend. Just me and the lawyer. My parents and Bianca were at the kitchen table, mid-conversation, when we walked in. They froze. "What now?" my father growled. My lawyer didn't waste time. He set my phone on the table, pressed play, and let their voices betray them. "We'll go to CPS. We'll testify." 3 witnesses. The color drained from my mother's face halfway through. My father tried to bluster, but his voice caught. Bianca's smirk collapsed like paper in the rain. When it ended, the silence was brutal. "This," my lawyer said, calm as ever, "is blackmail. It's extortion, and it's false reporting. All felonies." He leaned in, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. "If you so much as make a phone call to CPS, this recording goes straight to the police. You will not only lose this house, you will face criminal charges." My father slammed his hand on the table. "She's our daughter, and she's stealing from us." "Correction," I said, my voice like stone. "I'm your daughter, and I'm done letting you steal from me." My mother shook her head, eyes wet. "We trusted you. We gave you everything, and you're tearing this family apart." "No," I said quietly. "You did that the second you called my child a mistake." For once, they had no answer. They shouted, of course. They always shouted. Betrayal, betrayal, betrayal. But under the noise was something new. Fear, because this time, I wasn't bluffing. They had 30 days, and now they knew if they tried anything else, they wouldn't just lose a house. They'd lose everything. They moved out on the 30th day, just like the paper said. Suitcases out the door, no goodbye, no apology. I didn't watch them go. I just let the silence close in behind them, a silence that, for once, belonged to me. 6 months later, the house is still ours. No slammed doors, No whispered digs. No tension hanging in the hallways. Just me and Iris. She laughs louder now. She invites friends over, fills the rooms with drawings, music, and noise that feels like life. She's not the mistake. She's just a kid. My kid. And she's happy. I went no contact. My parents, Bianca. All of them. No calls, no texts, no family talks. And if I'd ever doubted whether taking the house was the right thing, their stunt with Child Protective Services killed that doubt forever. That was the mask slipping. They didn't care about Iris or me. They cared about money, control, appearances. And now, they lost all of it. Then one evening, out of the blue, Josh called. My brother. He said he wanted me to know he hadn't been part of the t-shirt humiliation, that he'd heard about the CPS threat, and that it was, in his words, messed up. He told me I did the right thing. I didn't invite him back into my life, but I let him say it. Maybe that was enough. So that's where it stands. No apologies, no dramatic reunion, just distance. And finally, peace. So what do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. *.